purpose is shared, it multiplies. Our final honoree reminds us that the impact of an educator does not stop in one classroom, it multiplies. From an early age, she felt called to teach, and over time, she realized she could extend that impact even further, not just by teaching students, but by preparing the educators who will teach them. Today, she works to shape the future of education by helping educators realize their potential and in turn helping them unlock the potential of countless students. She holds a deep belief that all people can learn, all people deserve respect, and that education is a shared responsibility. Because through her work, she is not just changing lives, she is helping others change lives too. And that impact will continue far beyond this moment. Please welcome Dr. Rhonda Blevins, a 2025 Distinguished Higher Education faculty member from Carson Newman University.
I did prepare like this much of a speech, but only because I'm a college professor, so I'm used to like 3 hours at a time. I stand before you, a proud product of a rural East Tennessee public school system that my entire family has gone through. Let's go Jeffco. And as of literally 24 hours ago, graduated from it. Except my husband, because he's a Knox County grad, and that is definitively not on my rural thing. It's just not. I also stand here as somebody who didn't jump into education through the normal path, and as a college professor who spends all of her days helping students realize the humanity of education should always come before anything else, including the data points. I've been teaching officially since 2012, thanks to a push from my husband, David, but it hasn't always been normal. I started teaching community college criminal justice, then I taught some adult ed, taught in a few prisons, and now I teach future and current teachers. My specialties are educational technology, thanks to my grandfather, who will continue to take that credit, because he did get me my first computer when I was 2. My Commodore 64 still works. Thank goodness, because that last kid that graduated, 24 hours ago, we got college to pay for, so hoping I can get some money out of that. eBay, here we come. I also teach classroom management. Remember, I taught in some prisons. It makes me especially qualified. I'm really good at middle school classroom management. I teach assessment, because who better to teach about evaluation and judgment than a small town southern girl who went through way too many cotillion classes in charm school. Tommy, no comments about my cotillion and charm school. You don't get to weigh in on that. And I'm also over our job embedded program, because I truly believe in making sure that every child has a teacher that feels supported and loved. I find myself constantly reminding people that yes, my job title is professor, but my job is teacher. And that is no different than anyone else in this room. I tell people all the time, there really is not a difference between those of you teaching 3-year-olds. Your children are the same as my children, because the only difference between a doctoral student and a 3-year-old is the smell. I promise you they are the same humans. If you have ever been in the first week of college classes with freshmen, everybody teach your kids to do their laundry before they go to college. Please. Just do me a solid on that one. I also stand here as somebody who consistently looks for the adultier adult in the room, only to realize it was supposed to be me. Someone who constantly has to remind herself that this really is her life. some of that's good and some of it, you can't. I work with job embedded teachers, y'all. You cannot write the things that I get told. And somebody who truly feels that every tear has been worth it if I have managed to help one human a day. But enough about me. Let's talk about you for a second. Your teachers, all of you. That means you're hardworking. That means you are persevering. It means you are intelligent. It means you're caring, and it means you're called. Not just to teach, but to teach who and what you teach. I'm a perfect case in point. At one point, I thought I was going to be a band director. Then I realized that I really like marching band and basketball and athletic bands, but I really don't like small children with brand new instruments. Then I thought I was going to be an elementary school teacher. Realized not only do I not like small children with brand new instruments, I really just don't like little children. It's okay, we're all called where we're supposed to be. Look, my high school students, my prisoners that I taught, they are also sticky, but I know where it came from. No 5-year-olds for me. Don't ask me to tie your shoe. My own children, I will not tie their shoes. I, at one point, looked at my son and told him, you can learn to tie it or I will get you Velcro. It really doesn't matter. Let me also tell you about my students. They're excited to become teachers. They care. They are so dedicated because no longer do I have students who their sole responsibility is to go to school. Every student I have has something else. They're an athlete. They have a family. They're taking care of their own family. They're homeless. Yeah, y'all, that doesn't stop when you get out of 12th grade. We still have the same things at college. My students are a little needy. Well, maybe a lot needy some days. They really want to hear your stories, but they don't want to hear the war stories. They can hear enough about how hard teaching is and how bad it is. There's teacher quit talk. I don't know if you know what's out there. They've seen it. They don't need to hear how bad our profession is. They need to hear why we still love it. Even on the days when you go home and go, you know what, I really could live in a cardboard box behind a Walmart. I can make it, right? I can out, it's my pleasure, any Chick-fil-A employee and make more money. It's okay. We know it, right? They don't need to hear those stories. They're excited to give students a chance. They're excited to hear from their students. And if they've been through my class, they know that all the data ever should tell them is where to start go asking questions. It does not tell us anything besides where do we start with the questions. And hopefully, by the time they get out of my class, I have perhaps beat it into them enough that they're open-minded enough to start to try anything new. Yeah, I tell them to use AI. Or old, yeah, let's get some popsicle sticks out. Anything that will work, that will make learning happen. Because you see, I believe teaching is hard, but the only way it will get better is by us being truthful, and truthfully, but not toxically, positive about what we do. So, after saying a huge thank you to all of you, a pretty massive thank you to my husband, David, who has put up with my crazy, harebrained schemes for over 25 years. I did check my math. I only know that because our 25th anniversary was in March, so that we were there. My kids, or our kids, they're not just mine, he was there too. Alyssa and Braden, they are 22 and 17, and they are my sounding board for every assignment and every assessment that I write. Every single assessment I give, my kids have looked at. Neither of them want to be a teacher. My parents, Susan and Jerry, who have helped me not only my entire life, but also have helped move my classroom and office entirely too many times. My mom also kind of came in clutch for us 2 days before the STEA conference, because, oh yeah, I get to do that. And it's a ton of fun. And we ordered shirts, and then there was a problem. So 2 days before our conference in the spring, my mother whipped us up 17 shirts so that we could have matching shirts, and mine even had sparkle on it because she's my mama. But most importantly, my students, because they keep me going every day. And so I want to leave you with a poem that I wrote at the request of a student about our calling to teach. The poem is built on my beliefs, but feel free to substitute your own if you feel so led. Change everything you're doing on the fly to meet the needs of your students? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Teach without the tools you need on any given day? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Teach people that don't want to be in your class? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Take the weight of the world on your shoulders? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Exist simultaneously as both the hero and the villain? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Add things to my course that don't make sense just because it was mandated? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Love the students even when they don't love me? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Give them a safe space to be who they are? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Take on their problems and try to guide them through them? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Pray for them, love them, care for them, guide them, lead them, and allow them to take the lead? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Take on the insurmountable task of being everything to everyone? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Fight against bureaucracy? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Exist in a hierarchy where I'm told to be in charge, but also expected to let them take the lead? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Fight for what is best for students, regardless of the judgments of others? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Learn from my students while I teach them? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. Can I do these things? Can I meet the students where they are? Can I teach them all without judgment, without bias? Can I keep it up day after day? Can I give them new chances every single day, regardless of what they did yesterday? Of course I can. God called me to be a teacher. He called me to be a teacher. The highest calling, the one that enables all of the others, the one that was so important, it has been modeled throughout Jesus' life. Thank you.